Today's scripture reading is from the Lamsa translation of the Holy Bible, Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. Now the whole earth spoke one language, and with one manner of speech. And it came to pass, as men journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they settled there. And they said one to another, "Come, let us make bricks, and burn them with fire." And they had bricks for stone, and slime for mortar. And then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top may reach to heaven. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which men were building. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they all have one language, and they have reason to do this thing. And now nothing will prevent them from doing that which they have imagined to do. Come, let us go down, and there divide the language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there upon the face of the earth, and they ceased from building the city. Therefore they called the name of it Babel, because it was there that the Lord confounded the language of all the earth, and from there that the Lord scattered them upon the face of the earth. Again, that's Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. Good morning. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Today, we're talking about peace. And after hearing that scripture reading, I'm sure some of you may be wondering what the Tower of Babel has to do with peace. Well, stick around for a few minutes, and you'll find out. What is peace? Webster's dictionary defines peace as a state of tranquility or quiet, or freedom from civil disturbance, or a state or period of mutual concord between governments. In our life, peace may mean a lack of war, or a safe neighborhood, or simply a quiet moment away from the hustle and bustle of the world around us. In fact, peace can mean many different things, depending on the person and the circumstances. But usually, it's a safe respite from a challenging situation. From the beginning of time, peace has been challenged because of the interactions between people. Even in the Bible, we hardly get into the 4th chapter of Genesis before the first family is struck by tragedy when Cain slays his brother in a fit of anger and jealousy. The human side of our personality tends to look at the world from our own unique point of view. Because each person has differing experiences in his or her life, it's not unusual for two people to have differing values, opinions, or preferences. No two people think exactly the same way, and sometimes it's difficult for us to understand why someone else can't see things the way we do. This can lead to disagreements, discontent, arguments, or outright fighting. It's in our general nature to want those around us to understand our point of view. It becomes easy for us to try to impose our personal values on others who may not think the same way, causing friction. This can endanger friendships, alienate family members, and in extreme cases, it can result in war. Ever since the first disagreement between early humans, there's been a desire for peace, to make the unrest go away. We don't like uncomfortable situations, and there are two ways that we react. One, we ignore the problem, or two, we try to do something about it. The first choice is obviously the easiest because it's the path of least resistance, but it doesn't really accomplish anything. Ignoring a problem doesn't make the problem go away. In fact, it also often makes the problems even worse. In the second option, it takes a lot more thought and effort, and it can also lead to further trouble and frustration if we don't keep things in perspective. A news journalist heard about a very old Jewish man in Jerusalem who had been going to the Western Wall to pray twice a day, every day, for a long, long time. That would make a good story, she decided. So she went to the wall with her crew, and sure enough, there was the elderly gentleman praying away. She watched him for an hour, and as he turned to leave, she approached him for an interview. "I'm Rebecca Smith, World News," she said. "Sir, how long have you been coming to the Western Wall to pray?" 60 years, he answered. She continued with her questioning. 60 years? Amazing. What do you pray for? I pray for peace among Christians, Jews, and Muslims. I pray for all hatred to stop. I pray for our children to grow up in safety and in friendship. Concluding her questions, the reporter asked, "So how do you feel after having done this for so long?" And he quietly replied, "Like I'm talking to a bloody wall." This man might sound frustrated, but he knows what he's doing. More on that in a little bit. One of the biggest detractors of peace is fear. It's part of our human nature to be afraid of things that we don't understand. How much unrest has been caused by a lack of understanding of cultural, religious, or ethnic differences? How many people have been subject to discrimination, mistreatment, or even torture because people were afraid of them? In the early days of the American colonies, people became so afraid of others who thought differently, or who believed different truths, or didn't act the way they did, that they persecuted those people as witches. How many countless souls were tortured or killed because of people's fears? And how many times over the centuries has this pattern repeated itself in different ways, even today? The terrorism we experience today is a result in part of this type of fear. In order to maintain control, groups of people and organizations have imposed rules in the name of religion or truth to maintain order and to ensure the survival of their beliefs. They have sometimes taken advantage of people's fear to make sure that they follow these rules. If you don't do as I say, you'll go to hell. Non-believers are evil and must be destroyed. Those who don't comply with our rules will be alone and outcast. So what do we do? Metaphysically, we understand that it's the energy we put into a situation that creates the outcome. Scripture tells us, "Ask and you shall receive. Seek and ye shall find." If we ask for something or put out a thought, the universe responds. It has to. Mind activates principle, which produces results. But we also need to be careful of what we ask for, because as our Declaration of Principles reminds us, we are responsible for what we create. We can ask for peace, but peace to you may not mean the same thing as peace for me. If there's a horrible war going on and we don't approve of it, asking for peace might mean ending the war to us. But for someone who's directly affected by the atrocities of war, a simple ceasefire may be a blessing of peace, even if it's only temporary. Ending a war abruptly could result in peace, but it could also result in an oppressive power taking over, which could potentially be even worse. Let's take a look at World War II. Adolf Hitler was a driving source of negative energy that resulted in the European conflict. If we had been present at the time, we might have prayed for the war to end. Following the rules of co-creation and the law of cause and effect, the universe would have responded accordingly by facilitating the end of the war. And it did. But what if we had just stopped fighting, or walked away, or if the war had ended in Hitler's favor? There certainly would have been more peace, exactly what we asked for. But at what cost? Peace is more than just a condition. It is also an intent. We are taught to seek results that are for the highest good of all involved, because none of us really knows with absolute certainty what is best. Divine metaphysics is one of the few denominations that teaches us that we don't know what truth is. We only know what we've found to be true so far. Several years ago, during the height of the Iraqi conflict, I attended a series of lectures presented by a philosopher and teacher. During one of the discussions, he provided specific instructions to the group of students on how to pray for peace to achieve appropriate results. He asked them to visualize the country of Iraq, picturing a globe or a map or some other personal image of the country and its people, and holding it in our minds. He continued, "You have come a long way, and so have they. But they have chosen through their free will to be whatever they are, and that must be respected and not infringed upon. And so if you merely place your thoughts of the God energy, just encourage the God to come forth. The God energy in them will begin its unfoldment the same as it does with you. And so that thought and understanding should help you be able to release any thoughts of trying to make someone else be like you or to think like you. That is not the purpose. The only purpose is to send the God energy and to see the God energy unfolding in whatever way is for everyone's highest good and the country's highest good. And then, as it unfolds, you see the world unfolding in that same direction. And as you visualize Iraq and call upon the God, feel the God, be a part of it. Recognize your divinity and recognize the divinity in all of the souls of Iraq and its government. See it unfolding, calling upon the God. God energy is never still, is it? And so as you call upon the God energy will come forth and do and help bring into whatever is right at this time. That's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? And we can do this to find peace in any situation. So now we come back to our scripture lesson and the Tower of Babel. The tower was a creation of humanity intended to be a stairway to heaven of sorts. But God was concerned that the tower was built not to glorify God, as the people said, but rather to create a symbol of man's power and strength, which was drawing humankind away from their progression toward higher consciousness. True, they focused their energy on a common purpose and achieved an amazing feat. But their intent was a flaw in their visionary goal. We see the same kind of thing within groups of people throughout the world today, where the ego and selfish ideals that it brings becomes more important than what is best for humanity. In our story, God responded by creating confusion, making it so that the people no longer spoke the same language, and they could no longer understand each other, and therefore they'd have to rely on themselves to find the right path. In today's terms, this would be the equivalent of the various nations of the world seeking peace, although they may not agree on what peace is or in what way it should be achieved. Shinar, the name of the place where the tower was built, means divided river and represents our own divided mind. One mind, our ego-based physical awareness, has a tendency to want things to happen our way. Our other mind, our spiritual awareness, God consciousness expressing within us, tempers our ego-based thoughts to seek higher truth and understanding. When we turn away from God consciousness to let our ego express, we often find chaos, much like the people of Shinar. When we turn away from ego-based thoughts and assumptions, our God consciousness is able to express itself more effectively, and we find peace in our situations, even if they aren't ideal. In the story, a personified God was physically separating people to force them to turn away from their ego mind toward more harmonious ways of thinking and behaving. Metaphysically, we see that as our God consciousness within, separating us and helping us rise above our ego-based thinking to see things more harmoniously, to find peace and understanding despite the circumstances. So what is the lesson in all of this? Just like the bricks used to build the tower, each of us has the power to create energy that contributes to the common consciousness of which we're all a part. If each one of us takes our own little brick of energy to achieve peace for the highest good of all, that energy accumulates and affects everything. The more we build on positive energy, the easier it is to reach our ultimate goal of perfect understanding. And when we do, we find that there's no longer a need for conflict. Hermetic philosophy teaches us that energies and perceptions swing like a pendulum. Things can't get too bad without swinging back toward the good. Conversely, as situations improve, Occasional obstacles will get in the way to remind us of our goal and to keep us centered. As we focus our energy on the positive, that energy causes our situation to swing toward the positive, or at least it makes it stop swinging toward the negative. It may not seem like our individual effort will amount to much in itself, but like the bricks in the tower, or like the old man praying at the wall, if each one of us does our part, you and me and all of us together build a stronger foundation of peace. In the words of Helen Keller, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. As we assume a more peaceful nature, we can still continue to think differently and have different opinions and believe different things without fighting about it. Think back 20 years now to the events of September 11th and the way everyone banded together for the common good and comfort of our nation. Prejudices, attitudes, and selfishness were set aside as millions of people understood the need for peace and brotherhood. It didn't matter whether we were digging out rubble in New York City or praying at home thousands of miles away. It was a rare instance when virtually everyone in our nation, and even around the world, was focused on the same positive vision. And look what it was able to accomplish in a matter of hours. We rose above doctrines, politics, and selfishness to actively raise our common consciousness with pure love and concern in our hearts. The hardest part of all of that is hanging on to that positive energy and not letting that pendulum swing back the other way. Even the little old man in Jerusalem kept praying. He may not have been able to see the effect of his prayers, but what might have happened if he had given up? It may sometimes feel like you're talking to a wall, but your thoughts and energies are always in action, creating a brick that does its small part to build a foundation for others to build on top of. What kind of bricks are you creating? Human beings live in fear and analysis. Spiritual beings live in love and forgiveness. As we conclude, I'd like to share a set of affirmations that will help to main focus on building and maintaining a state of peace in our lives and in our world. A number of variations of these appear on the internet. I contribute to peace when I abide by the conviction that no race or specific individual is privileged in relation to others. I contribute to peace when I wish all people the same freedom to think and to have their own opinions and to live their lives as I wish for myself. I contribute to peace when I do not deny any human being the right to have his or her own understanding of God. I contribute to peace when I put aside my own interests for the welfare of others. I contribute to peace when I let all my thoughts, words, and deeds be vivid expressions of light, love, and life. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. We're all on a different path, but going to the same place. By embracing our differences, we embrace each other. God is love, God is peace, God is light, and God is us. Each individual effort contributes to the whole, and each of us must do our part. Today, when we sing our closing hymn, let's pay careful attention to the words and make a special effort to live by them. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let peace begin with each one of us. Peace and blessings to you.